Oh, great. Okay, so all right, this is better now. Okay, so we're going to start like in 1 minute. Uh, okay. So Mary, just one more thing. Can you check if you can see the present button over there, so you can be sure you can make a presentation.
Yeah, sure, of course.
Oh, great. Okay, all right. So okay, so I have actually dropped the links on the community, so we should be expecting people, like lots of people soon. Okay, so hello guys, good afternoon. Welcome to today's edition of No Code Africa training. No Code Africa training is it's a free training for Africans who are looking forward to learning how to build web and mobile applications without having to write a single line of code. Yeah, so we understand that this is one of the things that can actually make your 2023 a very good year, because you can leverage on this particular skill to build products for your clients, or also build MVPs for yourself. Now, this particular course in training is very suitable for startup founders who have been having issues, raising enough capital to hire software engineers to build their MVPs. With your knowledge of how to build web and mobile applications without writing code, using the platform we're using right now, which is called Adalo, you will be able to build your MVPs very easily and be able to launch into your market easy as well. And also, if at all you're just a freelancer and then you're trying to see how you can get like extra skill to get income for yourself this year, this is one of the best things that you can do for yourself. So in today's session, we have in the studio, we have in today's event Mary Agbo, and then she's a product in UiUx designer, and she's going to be the one to take us on a 1 hour session on introduction to UiUX design for designers and no coders, right? So in our previous classes, we have been making mobile applications, and without paying attention to the UI UX, which is user interface, user experience. So going forward, we want to be able to start paying attention to the UI UX design of our applications. And for us to be able to do that, we have to have an idea, at least some background of what UI UX design entails, and that's why we have this training today. So it's a little bit different, and it will be handled completely by Mary, and Mary is going to take us on this session. So the floor is yours now, Mary. Thank you very much for being part of this program, Mary. We're really, really happy to have you here, because we really want to learn so much about UI UX design, and so that we can actually get to build like very good looking applications. What we have been doing, what we have been building before, have been not so good looking. Yeah. So, but with what you're going to teach us today, we're going to be able to like build very, very interesting applications that will have like it will be very appealing to our users. Thank you very much for being here with us. Thank you, Mary.
Yeah, thanks, David, for having me, and thanks to everyone that's actually here. I hope after this training, we actually go home with something and probably feel motivated to actually go ahead in this UI UX design field. Okay, so a minute, let me share my screen and go ahead. Hello, David. Hello. Hello, David.
Hello, Mary. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now. I wanted to
Okay.
confirm if you can actually see my screen.
Oh, okay. So right now I cannot see your screen.
Okay. Can you see my screen now?
Uh-oh, I can't still see your screen. Whoa. Oh, okay, okay. All right. I have to add the stream to the yeah, so I think it works now. I can see your screen and I believe everyone else can.
All right, cool. All right, thanks, guys, once again for having me. Yeah. All right. So my name is Mary Agbo, but I go by the name Maria, and I'm actually a product designer, visual designer, and UX designer. I work with Cello, and yeah, I have 2 years plus of user-centered design, user experience-centered design, and basically about me. I am actually passionate about building great products that make people's life easier, and which involves strategizing innovative digital experiences for small startups to the world's biggest brand. And I'm excited to be here with you all. And so today I'll just be doing a brief introduction into UI UX design for as many of you who would want to transition into tech, regardless of whatever field it is you're actually coming from. And then that means we are going to be looking at, um, we're just going to be looking at this few subtopics. All right. So first of all, before I actually go deeper into this training, there are things I usually like to clarify, and it would be very good if every one of you here can actually ask these questions to yourself and then provide answers to yourself by asking yourself these questions. So, my first question, whenever I'm trying to teach my student, I usually ask them, why do you want to become a UI UX designer? So many people um, like the idea of being a techie, or which is not wrong, like an idea of being a techie. But if you don't have a good enough reason for you to actually transition into tech, or specifically to be a UI UX designer, the energy you use in coming into it, the same energy you're going to use to go out of it. So you should have enough reason, enough motivation, enough goals that's going to keep you running while in the field, because you are going to encounter a lot of things while learning in the process. Okay, so if you have succeeded in asking yourself that question, um, the next part is, I want to believe, since we are all here, your answers are all yes. Yes, every human wants to grow, and this is a path you have chosen to want to grow. And so I'll just be giving you a briefing, you know, since I don't know if you're just hearing about UI UX design for the first time, but I know a lot of people have actually heard about UI UX design. But I will have to simplify it and make you understand it a little bit better. So so when we talk about UI and UX, all put together, UI UX designer. All right, it's not a big deal. All right, it's just two different words put together. A UI means user interface, while UX, user experience, all put together, user interface, user experience designer. And in some large companies, we have them individually, which we'll be discussing in this training later. All right, so we have them individually. You have some people saying I'm a UI designer, some people saying I'm a UX designer. While in startup or smaller companies, you have them both together, UI UX designer. All right, so in this our training today, we are actually going to be looking at um, just this training introduction. We have the UX fundamental, we have user experience carriers, we have responsibilities of an entry level UX designer. And finally, we have you being a specialist or a generalist designer. So don't worry, don't feel tensed. By the time I explain further, you're going to understand what all this means. So quickly, let's go into the whole idea of user interface design. So when people ask me what UI UX means, I simply say to them that UI is actually what you see everywhere you go around you, the market, church, school, your living room. You have UI all around you, okay? And for the UX, basically, is how you interact with all of these things put together. All right. So the cake is the UI, what you see on the internet when you search for cake images. That's what that the request you get is the UI. That's what you see, visual, what you see. All right. But the UX of that cake is the whole process, hard work, everything. The person who baked the cake came up with, to put that beautiful cake you are actually viewing online. So basically, that's just UX, okay? There's nothing much about um, that's just basically the skeleton of what UI UX means. So basically, I would say UX design is the process of actually enhancing user satisfaction by improving the usability and accessibility provided in the interaction between the user and the product. Okay, so should I say this is basically let me break down a few questions so you understand. I'm very sure you're all conversant with using web applications and mobile applications, and this all the whole UI UX experience and everything involves your everyday activity, even when using your mobile application and your web application. And when using this product, you there are certain questions you tend to ask yourself. And even though you don't ask yourself, the designers and the team that actually came up with a product that you are actually using currently, uh, they have actually answered these questions on your behalf. Okay, and that is why you have the products that you're currently using. So questions like was it easy to navigate, when you're using a product, your how you navigate from one screen to another? Did you ever feel lost or confused? There are some sites you get to and you just don't know what to do. And how did you know where to click to get to where you needed to go? This is all part of the user experience, and it is the job of the user experience designer to make this as good as it can be. So I would say that you should also take note that UX design is about having a complete understanding of the users. Okay, we are building products for the users because the users will eventually use um, the product. So whatever biases you have as a designer, you have to hold it back and be professional. Okay. Yes, you're one among the user, but You as a user does not overrule a product. Okay, you're building for a major user, and they should come first. And with that being said, there are other activities a UI UX designers actually carry out before coming up with a product you get to use every day. So they conduct intensive user research. So before you get to see a product launched out there, for everything, including the profile icon, including the bottom navigation, and including everything you're seeing currently on any web application or mobile application, a research has actually been conducted before those things are formed like that. So aside um, conducting user research, you go ahead and craft user personas. That is, it's basically should I say they are fictional characters where you outline their goals and frustration. What do they think about the product you are about to actually work on, or probably their past experience in using similar products as to what you're about to start working on. You get this feed and put together. We have testing, we have yes, we have usability testing to see which designs are most effective, or getting a user to their end goal in the most delightful way possible. All right, these all things put together is the job of a user experience designer. These are the things you can't just skip. You can't skip all these phases and just go and start designing. There are procedures you have to follow, and these have to be these ones I just listed are things you have to take into consideration before coming up with a user interface for your user. So I would say that as a UI designer, your job isn't just to create something beautiful. A lot of people actually have that misconception. You don't just create something beautiful. Your job is not to just create something beautiful. It is for you to understand the user's mindset, predict what they will expect, and then make the design as user friendly as possible. Okay, so have it in mind that UI design is about making your customers successful. So if you notice, I've been mentioning users, customers, and customers, and basically that's the aim to which you are actually designing. Okay, so I would briefly just say what the skills and traits you need to become a UI UX designer. Basically, you don't need much. You don't need to stress yourself. Okay, I know you probably a lot of questions will be going through your head as to how what you have to actually have. A lot of people will ask, do I have to have a degree? Do I have to know a particular, probably how to use the computer? One or two questions, but I'll just give you a list of the skills and traits you need to become a user interface designer. So I would say that learning to be a UI designer is actually not easy, but trust me, for me, I have been there, and I would say there are specific skills and traits that will make your journey into this career go more smoothly. And I have listed few of them, and so I will just let you know into them. I'll list them one after the other, and um, I'm very sure there are things you all do have, or there's something that are priceless that you can always have. So the first one is for you to have drive. Yeah, drive. Okay, so if you know from the beginning of this training, I made mention of you wanting to transition into tech. You have to be sure why you want to. So basically, that is your drive. Okay, so the most important thing to succeed as a designer is your attitude. So if you don't have a personal drive to learn and grow, then you won't get very far. Okay, I said it at the beginning, you won't get very far. You find yourself with the energy you use in coming into uh, the feed, you find yourself going out with that energy. All right, so the first thing you have to have as trait is to have a drive. And then the second one is for you to enjoy learning. Okay, so being a UI designer means staying up to date on the latest design trends and changes in the industry. And this changes fast. This change, it comes really fast. Okay, if you don't keep up, it's easy to fall behind and become less relevant. And I was actually having a conversation with a friend recently, and turns out everybody actually feeling the heat, and it's general. It's not just to the UI feed alone. It's everywhere. You sleep one morning, you wake up, and you're seeing that, oh, there is actually a new trend. But whichever, you just have to catch up, and you catching up makes you relevant in the feed. It's very important. And with that say, you have to enjoy learning. Okay, if you don't enjoy learning, whenever these things come, you just get tired and want to give up. All right, so firstly, you have a drive. Then secondly, you enjoy learning. Thirdly, you are a team player. Okay, so UI designers often work as part of a team with UX designers. Like I mentioned earlier, for bigger companies, they can be distinguished. But for startups, smaller companies, they can be together. Okay, so they work as part of a um, UX designer team, and others focused on product development. So this team actually could consist of other designers. It can consist of programmers, marketers, salespeople, and so on. All right. So it's important to be comfortable working with others and communicating with colleagues of all levels. If you find it difficult to take constructive criticism, you might have trouble in this field because you always experience it. You will always experience it. So for my company, we have different product, and for each product you have a designer attached to each product, and not just a designer. So where you have you this number 3 point, you have to become a team player. You know that, okay, you're working with a product manager, you're working with a designer, you're working with a developer, you're working with a marketer, you're working with whoever team is actually whoever individual is, and that makes up your team. You actually be working with them, and that means you have to be a good team player, to be able to have awesome relationship with them. And the criticism part, it's very, very common in this field. You have to be ready for it, and just know this criticism comes not out of hate, it's out of love. The more you take it in, the more you become better. All right, so the first one I made mention of is you have drive. The skills you need to become a UI designer, you have drive, you enjoy learning, you're a team player, and number four, you care about people. Okay, it's very, very important. I'm very sure you've heard so many times people use the word empathy, empathy, empathy. It's very important for a designer to have such a trait. When you care about people, okay, UI designer is UI design generally is all about people. And this is why you have to care about people. You have to understand why people behave the way they behave, to be able to um, put products out there that they need. Okay, so after all, they are the ones who will be using the interface you design. You won't be using it yourself, it will be the user. So if you don't care about their needs and wants, you won't get very far in this industry. All right, so basically those are the traits you should have as a UI UX designer. One, you have a drive. Two, you enjoy learning. Three, you're a team player. Four, you care about people. And I'm very sure at this point you all be you feel okay and happy that they are traits good enough for you all to have. Every human being should have. So you've just realized to get into this field is no big deal. All right, so I'll briefly walk you through the challenges, because for every field you are actually interested in, there's always one or two challenges. Okay, but okay, so all right, so the challenges you think you might face. All right, I will just try to clear it a little. And before I go into these challenges you think you might face, which won't be an issue at all, but you feel is actually an issue, I'm going to clear it. You don't need a degree to be able to become a UI UX designer. All you need is your skill. You can further your degree some other time in the future. It's part of your growth. Just like you want to transition into this field, it's a personal decision you can make on your own. But you don't need a degree to be able to transition into this field. So so many people have asked me, do I also need experience? All right, so these are the questions I'll be answering by discussing the challenges you might face. All right, they are no big deal. So I would say that switching to a new career, can be really stressful. So I know from my experience, so there are tons of challenges you will face actually, but remember, there is nothing that can't be um, overcome. All right, so the first one is no work experience. All right, so I would say that one of the biggest issues that I have come across is how do you stand out when other guys or girls have so much more experience than you? All right, we at every point as a designer, we don't grow out of this, okay, but there is a point that, okay, I've come to as a designer, and all right. It's not like even senior designers get rejected for interviews when they even apply for jobs. All right. So it happens. It's not something you should feel bad or feel sad about. All right. But you trying to transition into design field, and you've acquired the skill, and then you're figuring, okay, I don't have a work experience, how do I push forward into this? And that is where you have to work harder. As designer, I was speaking to a friend and I'm like, okay, in this field, even though you don't have a real life work experience, that's why there is the part where you have to work on case studies. Build yourself personally. Okay, pick pick very interesting topics, ideas, and try to break them, come up with a case study on them. You upload them on your portfolio, and that should be your experience. And while you're doing that, in between, you apply for jobs. You can apply directly depending on how good you've become. After practicing and practicing design, you can either apply for jobs or apply for internship. Whichever comes first, you start your life with that. But believe me, even before 6 months, you know your strength at that point. Before 6 months, you know what you're capable of doing, and before you know, you're making waves in the industry. Some people didn't even they didn't stay that long before they started having gig. I've personally, I when I transitioned into UI UX design, I didn't I would say it was within a month of me learning. Okay, I got my first job. Yes, yeah, it's shocking, but I was lacking. All right. So when I said 1 month does not mean you can learn it in 1 month. I was lacking. I was good with UI, but I was lacking in the UX. So real life job actually made me realize how much I was lacking, and then I had to sit up to keep my job. All right. So we are all different individuals. A lot of people won't be able to, take in that. So whichever works for you, the most important thing is for you to take it slowly on yourself. Okay. Secondly, finding work if you live in a remote area. All right. So when you set off on your journey to become a UI UX designer, there are several paths you can actually take, both online and offline and paid. And the level you're currently at and your ambitions for the future will actually determine which of these will be appropriate course for you to take. So, should I say, though many people find that a combination of different resources meets the learning requirements most effectively. So, whichever works for you, okay, you'll be able to put through. And so basically, that's just the challenges. Okay, most designers have gone one on one to tackle with me that they don't have work experience. How should they go about this? I said it's not a big deal. Okay, I live very far. Can I get a remote job? So even though you're just starting in the field, you can still get a remote job. You can work both online, you can work offline, you can work paid, whichever. This field actually allows it. And whatever it is the opportunity presents to you, you have to do your own part of the work before you actually face the reward, because by then it can get a little bit challenging if you are not properly built. Okay, so I would just list few best ways you can actually learn to become UI UX designer. Okay, one of them is YouTube, blog posts, tutorial sites, and books. Okay, when I started off, I used YouTube a lot, a lot. I watched so many tutorials on YouTube, so it really helps. You can find so many online. Okay, you go to YouTube and beginner course, crash course on UI UX design, and so on and so forth. So after learning with this from these sources, what is the next step you should take? Okay, so after learning, you have already found that you're actually good enough. And if you doubt yourself, because we all have that part in us where we doubt ourselves a lot and we feel we are not good enough, it's fine. It's always proper for you to have someone that has been there before you, and all you have to do is, hello, can you spare me a few minutes of your time? I would love for you to review my design with me. And then they hop on a call with you. You guys review your designs, and they point out, because they've been in the feed before you, they point out where you need to improve, where is good, where needs to be better, and the rest. And with that, you know that okay, you're good to go. All right. So the next step you should take is first thing first, you build a great portfolio. Yes, you want to enter the job market now. After learning from YouTube, blog posts, tutorial sites, books. Okay. So the first thing you have to do is to build a great portfolio. Get work experience. And by getting work experience, you don't necessarily have to go to big companies or even startup of whatever company. Okay. You can actually should I say, participate or collaborate with a designer that has always been there before you. You can collaborate with them on a project, and you guys build up a case study, together. That can also add up as a work experience. And then the third one, you build your network. Yes, that building network can really be stressful because a lot of people really are not fans of social media. They like their life low key and all that. But at some point, building a network, it's actually important. Okay, because you building a network, you end up meeting team members that are actually going through your struggles, and you guys come together, and you put yourself together, and you're accountable for each other. It's encouraging. Okay. All right, so that's one good importance of building network. So I would just do a little breakdown of building network. Okay, so I am trying to give a summary of all these things, and because we don't have much time. So for building your network, when you start your first job, basically that's if you've had a job, or if you don't have a job, you the most important thing is for you to be friendly and get to know either your workers or um, whoever it is you're actually trying to connect to at that moment. All right, so it's very key whenever you're building your network. So briefly, I'll just I'll quickly list some of these careers, user experience career, because it's very key for you to know the difference. Okay, but like I mentioned earlier, UI and UX can be different people. Usually they are structured to be different people, but for a startup that can afford to pay a UI designer alone and a UX designer, go for a UI UX designer. And I'll be explaining further where that's where you have what we call your specialist and your generalist. Okay, and if we have much time, I'll be able to emphasize on that reason. But for now, some of the careers in user experience, uh, we have the interaction designers. All right, so basically the interaction designers actually they focus on designing the experience of a product and how it functions. So they strive to understand the user flow, or the path that a typical user takes to complete a task on an app, website, or other platform. In a country like Nigeria, you hear most people like, I'm a UI UX designer. We literally work on this. So, but in big companies like Google, you have them listing, oh yeah, I'm an interaction designer. Especially when I was going through the Google UX course on Coursera, you know, I get to meet different people at different stage while learning, and they introduce themselves like, I'm interaction designer, I'm a visual designer, and so on and so forth. But I literally do almost all these things together. So that's where I was mentioning earlier, a generalist and a specialist. Okay, all right, but I will throw a little bit light later. So that's basically an interaction designer. So interaction designers answer questions like, what should happen if a user taps on this button? How do we make this action easier for users to complete? And are the design elements within the website laid out? Like I said earlier, you come to a website and you're so dumbfounded and you don't know what to do on that website. You don't know what action to take to get to the next screen and all that. You know, basically it's a bad UX. And for an interaction designer, they work to fix that part. Okay, so basically the interaction designers focus less on how the product looks, and instead they strive to make the product easy to navigate and simple for users to interact with. So basically that's their job. Okay, so we have visual designers, and the goal of a visual designer is to, should I say, to delight users with designs that inspire, engage, and excite them. All right, since it's visual, something the user would actually see and love. So basically that's their focus. Okay, then we have the third one, we have motion designer. And motion designer focuses on design elements that move rather than traditional static designs. Okay, so we have UX researcher, and the goal of a UX researcher is often to understand how a product can actually provide a solution to, should I say, a real problem users are actually facing. And we have a UX writer. Okay, so I'll quickly run you through the few careers that I listed initially. All right, interaction designer, visual designer, motion designer, UX researcher, UX writer. So before I come to the responsibilities of an entry level designer, for these listed careers that I just mentioned, I would like to narrow them to what I mentioned earlier, generalist and specialist designers. Okay, it's very important at this point, but my advice I'm going to give to you, since you're just starting up, is for you to actually choose the path of a generalist. Okay, because it gives you opportunity in terms of searching for a job. If you specialize at the beginning of your career, when I mean you becoming a generalist, I'm not saying you should overwhelm yourself with learning everything. No. Okay, you don't have to learn everything. Don't overwhelm yourself. When I mention generalist, I mean you take it one at a time. Okay, take it one at a time and learn things, and make sure you become good in them. You don't have to learn know them everything. Okay, you just take your time and learn them bit by bit, and by the time you look back, you know how much of skill you've actually acquired. All right, so for a specialist, I would say that especially dives deep into one type of UX design. So, for instance, like interaction or visual or motion design. Okay, so they either pick one of them and then they become an expert in that one, which is not bad. It's perfectly fine, also super fine. All right. So for yes, so they can either pick an interaction, visual, or motion design and become an expert in that. So I would say that the specialist UX designers, they are more common at large companies that have lots of designers, like I mentioned earlier, like Google. All right, so some of the benefit of becoming a specialist is one, you focus on one type of design that you enjoy more than others, and secondly, you gain deep knowledge of one type of design. Thirdly, you become well known in the industry of your expertise in a particular type of design. So if you go on social media, the fact that a lot of people are doing UI UX design, all right, there are people that kind of distinguished themselves, and they are like, okay, I'm a game designer, and everything they post online is just um interfaces relating to game, and they are doing really well. Okay, some do VR AR, and that's how they call themselves. I'm a VR AR designer. All right, so that is their specialists. Okay, they focused on the design. They know everything about game design, everything down to because that's their major focus. All right, so they have in-depth knowledge about it, and now they are experts in that field of design. All right, so basically that's a specialist design. All right, for a generalist, I would say, has a broad number of responsibilities, and a majority of the UX design jobs are actually generalist positions. Okay, like I mentioned, especially at companies with fewer UX designers, a lot of them, they are generalists. So typically entry level UX designers work in generalist role. All right, and some people choose to stay in generalist design roles for their entire career. All right, so like I made mention, you can start up as a generalist and finally specialize in one. All right, maybe eventually why you've selected, or I want to become an interaction designer, or you're a UI UX designer, and why you're learning, and probably you're already in the field working, and then you feel like, okay, I think it's time for me to focus on motion. So I want to become a motion designer, and you can just go deep into it and just become an expert there. So you're coming from generalist into specialist. It's super great. Okay, it's super great. All right. So and the few benefit of being a generalist designer is one is expanding your skills in many types of UX work. For me, I'm a generalist. I do interaction, I do motion, okay? I even do UX writing. All right, I do UX research because it's a must. I can't just launch my design or go present my design to my direct lead without carrying out research of how this idea can bring about this visual I'm actually presenting to them. I have to defend my design to them and like this is why this has to be like this. This is why this have to be like this. It's very important. Okay, so basically that's just it. A generalist specializes on one field of design and becomes an expert there. That's a specialist. Why a generalist? They have a broad responsibility. They have broad responsibility, and they tend to know so many. They know so many things about the whole design, the design put together. They know interaction. They know motion. So expanding your skill in many different types of UX work is really great. All right, since you're starting up, it's always good to start up as a generalist. All right, so I would love to talk about the responsibilities of an entry level designer, but due to not much time, I would like to pause for now, and probably if you have a question, let me know. Hello, David. All right,
Okay,
so I
yes,
don't know if
yeah,
they have a question.
yeah, Mary, yeah, thank you very much. That was really amazing. And you still have like a lot of time, really. You can still go ahead, actually. And I'm going to check the channel. If at all there's any question, I'm going to like, let you get to see it. I'll check
Okay.
like the live stream on YouTube, and if there are questions, I'll just get to like let you know about them. And but actually, you can continue. There's a lot of time, really, for real.
All right, cool. All right, all right. So I'll briefly just talk about the responsibilities of an entry level UX designer and why it is entry level UX design is because if after this training you're deciding to start a career as a UI UX designer, you'll be known as an entry level UX designer. And with that, you should be able to know that, okay, these are the things that I am going to be looking out for in terms of my responsibilities. Okay, so number one is user research. Okay, as an entry level designer, you have to know how to carry out research. So basically, it's the when you hear user research, you don't just calm down. Okay, it's not a big deal, and it's a big deal. Okay, so basically, it's about understanding the people who use your product. That's the simplest that can be explained to you right now. Understanding the people who use your product. Okay, and through research, you learn about your users' backgrounds, their demographics, their motivation, their pain points, their emotions, and their goals. And your research methods might include surveys, it might include observations and interviews. So it's way deeper than it's been explained here, but for now, just take it that when you want to design a product, you have to carry out a research. And you carrying out research, you have to be able to interview people who would use your product or who are already using similar products you're about to work on. For instance, they want to design a job search for a new graduate, okay, that's new university graduate, and they have few challenges of entering the market. Whenever they are done with school, they want to get a job, they have one or two difficulties and other. Then when carrying out your user research, you know that one of your users that you should be communicating with should be a fresh graduate from the university, and probably another graduate that has been searching for a job for a long time and couldn't get a job. All right. So whatever reason it is, the state why carrying out your user research, those are the things you have to pen down. Okay. All right. So you look at their pain point. In short, their pain point is one thing you have to target also, because that would be one of the concentration on your own application, because you are trying to learn more about your users. So whatever it is you feel they actually say, oh, other sites are actually lacking in these areas, you would want to improve those areas on your own web application or mobile application to make the experience better for them. All right. So basically, the first thing you have to learn to do or know to do is user research. The second one is information architecture. So for information architecture is basically I'm very sure you've seen for short IA everywhere. You like that means information architecture, and basically it involves deciding how your product is organized and structured. So you come to a website, and on that website, you see home, you see the logo, you see the home, you see about us, you see services, you see news, you see contact us. That's basically so. If you want to explain information architecture, it's basically you're coming from home, and then you drag an arrow. When you get to home, what do you get there? You get to the about us, you see the contact us, you see the services, you see news. Then when you open services, you see sub services. All right, sub services, you like, okay, maybe it's an IT firm. An IT firm says we do digital, we do digital products, we do this, they list their services. So a breakdown of what this company do put together brings about the information architecture. So it's just the way a product is organized and structured. Okay, so the next thing an entry level designer should know how to do is a wireframe. So a wireframe is basically it's a basic outline or sketch of a product or a screen, like for app or website. It's not the real life product, okay? It's not the real life. It's mostly lines and shape with some text. Okay, so at the stage of creating your wireframes, you don't have to think too much as a designer. All right, at that point, you mainly focus on the structure of how your website or your mobile application would look like. So you don't have to start cracking your head and start thinking what text should go into this place and blah blah. If you just there are rectangles for representing images, buttons, lines, and text, and all that. So everything at this point is usually black and white. And the purpose of this, it basically helps you bring your design ideas to life, so other people on your team can provide input and feedback. All right, and it's black and white at this point. So after the wireframing stage, the next one is the prototyping. And then the prototyping stage is a prototype simply is an early model of a product that demonstrates its functionality. All right, so how a user moves from one screen to another and all that, forms the prototyping phase, and it's a key responsibility of an entry level designer. Okay, then the next one is visual design. So visual design basically focuses on how the product or technology looks. Now your wireframe that was black and white, you are now adding colors to it. you're adding images to it where images should be. You're adding a more visible buttons that has proper color, probably the primary color of your application. You're not adding it to it. This is all the visual design phase. Okay, so that's basically what you do at that point. And last but not the least, effective communication as a user experience designer means connecting with your colleagues through emails, meetings, presentations, and design softwares. And I know a lot of people have actually heard about Slack. So most companies actually use that also in communicating. All right, so it's very key. You need to be a good listener, be receptive to feedback, and share your ideas, in a clear way. All right, so I'll quickly run you down on the responsibilities of an entry level designer. One is user research, two is information architecture, three, wireframing, four, prototyping, five, visual design, and six, effective communication. These are must you should be able to take care of as an entry level designer. It's not something you can actually run away or shy away from. There's a UI UX designer that got in contact with me recently. So while she was actually learning, she said she's very good, and this is what she said to me. She was like, I'm really very good in this thing. I saw the way people are doing it, and I know I can actually excel in this. And I was like, okay, fine. So how may I help you? And then she said, this is what you can do for me. And I was like, okay. I put her through. And I knew she was going to come back. With that kind of energy she came, she already proved to me that she could do better and all that in this field. But I was trying to let her know that it is way more than what she's thinking, because it's the way you're seeing it, it does not mean it's easy. And after few weeks, she came back and said she's frustrated already and she doesn't know what to do again and all that. So I'm like, okay, I knew this will happen. So the first thing you have to do is take a deep breath. No one is rushing you, no one is chasing you. Life is no competition. You have to take it a step at a time. You only look at yourself as your competition and nobody else. Okay, so you take it a step at a time. First of all, give yourself visible timeline of how you can actually achieve this. No pressure, no nothing, just you against yourself. If you do this and take these things one after the other, by the time, would I say in a month, when you look back, you realize you've actually achieved way, way more, like way, way more. So I would say that there are so many different paths you can take within the UX design field. So after you land your first entry job and start working in the field, believe me, you will get a better idea of whether you want to be a UX designer, generalist, or specialize in one specific type of design. So there are so many benefits in this field, and I think one attribute you need to possess at this point is patience and give yourself time. And when I say give yourself time, I don't mean you're slacking off or playing around. Okay, you take your life serious, do what you need to do, set timeline for yourself, and as every human being should do, try to achieve one or two goals. And if you are on this track, I want to say that you're actually on the right track. Okay, so just keep it up. If you have any question, you can throw in to David, or you can buzz me on LinkedIn anytime. And once I'm free, I reply to your messages and I explain further. If it requires me hopping on a call and explain better, I'll make out time, to make sure I answer all your questions. Thank you very much.
Okay, Mary, thank you so much. Like, thank you so much for this amazing session. Like, it's been really good. Let me explain how good this is, right? So, when learning how to build mobile and web applications without having to write codes, we started out by using a platform called Adalu, and then I went through like series of trainings with them, and to show them how to use the platform to build their MVPs for themselves or build MVPs for their clients, and then earlier, okay, towards the end of last year, I reached out to you to learn UI UX design, right? And so I started a little bit, okay. So, but since I'm more of a business person, I had to just like put that aside and then just focus on business. So when we started the training, for no code, I always kept on telling them that okay, so we're not paying attention to design, we're not paying attention to design. We're just focusing on the features, the functionalities, and yeah, that really worked out. But one of the uh, one of the things that made me to understand that okay, we really need to look at the design again is because some of the tasks that they submitted, the tasks that they are expected to do, it was really beautiful. Or okay, yeah, it was beautiful, but it didn't have like the cool quality an application should have, and that was because I wasn't teaching them UI UX design. And so that was like the real essence of this. That's like the real essence of the beginning of this lesson, because we're going to have like more lessons on how to like do really really good UI UX design in the course of our No Code Africa training. And then so this was really really like an amazing intro, and we have a few questions. Okay, so okay, so now the question here is actually to me, but I will just throw it to you. So let's see, how do we learn how to use Figma for mobile applications? Okay, so can you like try to attempt that? Then from there I can also say something.
Okay, so that's not actually a big deal when you start designing. So, like I said, the theoretical part of designs you need to learn, but everybody have what they are capable of actually taking in. All right, I told you of my experience of how I learned. I learned for 1 month and I got my job after 1 month, but I didn't say the part that I was coming from a front end development background. Okay, so I used to be a front end developer. All right, just starting up, just a beginner front end developer. All right, before I transitioned into UI UX design, and yes. While doing front end development, I actually tried UI UX design, and believe me, it was not something interesting. I just dropped it. All right. But after some time I tried it out my second time and it all worked out and I got a job. So there are processes to these things, or you just get frustrated along the line and abandon it. So for the mobile, all right, so when you start designing on Figma has various screens, all right? Various screens you can actually work with. They are all available on Figma for desktop, for tablet, for mobile. All you just have to do is to pick those frames. When you pick those frames, you now design. Okay, so that you remember I mentioned wireframe. Okay, you can do a sketch. So we have paper wireframe, we have low fidelity wireframe. All right, so you can quickly do your sketch of how you want your mobile application to look like. You go to your Figma file, open new file, and pick the particular screen size. Okay, for that mobile, there are actually different screen sizes. You have iPhone 10X. Okay, there should be. There's iPhone 10X there. All right, I'll just quickly do a briefing of different frames you can get there. All right, for phone, you have iPhone 14, iPhone 14 Pro, you have iPhone 8, you have Android small, Android large, different sizes. All you have to do is pick that particular frame and design into it. Okay, then you have for tablet, you have another frame called tablet, you have another frame called desktop, which is for the web application, and you have different dimensions for all of this. And with this, all you just have to do is select that particular one and do your design on it. So yeah, you can use Figma to do so many things: animation, motion design, interaction design, prototyping, everything. You can use Figma to actually accomplish that, both web and mobile application. Hello, David.
Okay. Yes, yes. I can still hear you, Mary. It seems we lost you at some point.
Okay. Yeah. All right. So I don't know where you had last, but I was trying to
No, no,
say that.
I think I
Okay.
had you to the last point, but I thought maybe you paused to continue. Yeah.
No, 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 not at all. Thank you very much.
Okay, all right. Thank you very much, Mary. Thank you so much. Like this is really, really amazing. Yeah, thank you so much for this session. And I'm going to like try to reach out to you again on LinkedIn. So so we can possibly discuss uh the possibility of continuing this lesson, with you. Okay. So but for today, thank you so much for being available here in the studio to take the students on an introduction to UI UX design, because we really want them to learn how to build beautiful mobile and web applications. Yeah. So without having to write codes, which is like the main essence of the No Code Africa training. So thank you very much once again. Thank you so much. We really, really appreciate you. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Okay, so hi guys. I really, really hope that you were able to like get so many insights from from this lesson. Really, really hope that you did get some insights from it, because one of the things that can actually make your mobile app or your web app really, really cool is the user interface, and of course the user experience as well. So because if you build a crappy application and your application doesn't have like the standard way things are supposed to be, you put buttons in different places like that, you don't like follow the convention, then it's going to give your user a very, very tough time. And then because of the current advancement of technology, right? So people really have like very little patience to stay on something not cool. Yeah, they have like very, very little patience. And of course, first experience, right? Is it first experience, first impression? Yeah, first impression matters a whole lot. Yeah, so if your user gets to experience your application the very first time, and then their initial experience doesn't make sense at all, then it is going to be very difficult for you to convince them to take a look at your application again. So that means before you even finally launch out, you can build your application to achieve like the basic features, all right, the basic features that you want it to have. And then before you launch out, you can go ahead and then create like a very good UI for it. Now, to also add to what Mary said, uh, as an answer to the question that was asked, which was how do we learn how to use Figma for mobile apps? Okay, so this is it. Just like what Mary had already said, before you build mobile applications or you build web application, you have to first of all do research. Yeah, then after that you have to go ahead and then start sketching some wireframes on Figma, and then from there you move it from wireframes to low fidelity, from low fidelity to high fidelity, and then when you're done and then you're sure that this is something really, really cool, you can go ahead and then interpret those designs the way it is on Figma. You can interpret them on Adalo, right? So you will try to use the different components that are found in Adalo to create the shapes. Some shapes might not be very easy for you to create, so you might have to download them from what you had already done on Figma and then put it inside Adalo as images, right? And then you just resize it. We're going to see how to do that subsequently in our future classes, after going through some maybe one or two more lessons on UI UX design, where you will get to learn how to really use the Figma tool to create wireframes, and then go ahead and start working on low fidelity, and then some points you work on the high fidelity, as well as working on user flow, right? So we will have like subsequent classes, maybe one or two actually, before we go back to really learning how to use Adalo to build mobile applications. All right. So for the guys that are still on the stream right now, so please, if at all you have not subscribed to our channel, one of the things you can just do to help us is just to click on the subscribe button, and then you can also like this video. I believe it was really, really, what's your time, what my time, what all of our times. So you can just like the video. You can drop a comment if you have any question at all, and then you can also try to reach out to Mary on LinkedIn or on Twitter. She's very active on Twitter. So you can try to reach out to her there, maybe to answer questions, answer a few questions that you might have as your concerns. Okay, so this is going to be like the end of today's lesson. Yes, because we just wanted to talk about just the introduction to UI UX design. We will have our labs in the night as usual from 7 p.m. GMT plus one. That's Lagos time, and then we'll have that on Google Meet. So thank you very much once again for. Oh, someone is asking a question. What's fidelity in app building? Okay, so Mary, I think this question is for you. Hello, Mary, are you there?
Sorry, what was it again?
Okay, so someone is asking here, what's fidelity? I think the person is trying to say low fidelity, high fidelity. So, what's fidelity in app building? I think the question should be like, what's low fidelity, high fidelity in UI UX design? I think that's what the person is trying to ask. Okay.
Okay, all right. So, we are all more visual, and it would be nice to display it visually to you. I don't know if you can let me share my screen briefly. I think just visually would actually answer the question. So, David, can I quickly share my screen?
The last slide said thank you. I have put your screen on the stream.
And I'm about to share my entire screen. I don't know
Oh,
if you
okay.
can see this. All right. So, David, can you see my screen?
Yes, yes, yes. It's showing now.
All right. So, this is, if you check here, I have it written high fidelity. It's just hi-fi. Hi-fi is a short form for high fidelity. Okay. Prototype, wireframe, regardless. This is lo-fi. That's low fidelity wireframe. This is what the low fidelity wireframe looks like, all black and white. All right, so I've actually done a sketch on a paper of how this should actually look like. And this is just one that I actually exported. All right, so this is me sketching it on a paper. So we have different types of wireframe. We have the paper wireframe, which is this. All right, that means you sketching your product that you want to bring into life. You sketching it on a paper. It might not be perfect in the initial stage, but as soon as you keep developing it, designing it, you through usability testing, you'll be able to know what should come in and what should go out. All right, so this is the paper wireframe, and this is a low fidelity wireframe. This is what it looks like, the black and white. You don't have to think of what image to use at this point. You don't have to think of, but yes, you have to focus on functionality regardless at this point, because for you to be able to launch your product, there are a series of functionality you've listed that you want your application to actually have. So for this, this is how a low fidelity wireframe looks like. This is a paper fidelity. This is a paper wireframe. This is a low fidelity wireframe, and this is a high fidelity wireframe. All right, this is it. Like this is now a high fidelity wireframe. So I don't know, with me explaining it visually for you, I hope it has actually done some justice, to your question.
Yes, it has. It has. It has. So, thank you very much again, Mary. Thank you so much. Thank you for the explanation. So, there's another question here. What's the difference between a UX designer and a UX engineer?
All right, so there are series of names being thrown out there, and you just have to be careful. All right, so but basically, a UI designer is someone who actually designs user interfaces. All right, the daily user interfaces you get to use every day, they are the ones in charge of this. But you see, that UX engineer that you're talking about, they go a little bit further. All right. So you remember I was explaining generalist and specialist and all that. Currently, there are designers that are actually learning how to code. Okay, so they can be relevant in the job market there. It's very competitive, and everybody are trying to be relevant in one way or the other. So when you now have a UX engineer, that's designer that can actually code also. All right. So just basically that's just it, but you don't get to see it often anyway. It's just most of them just have a knowledge of how you know coding works, and it stops there, except they are fully transitioning into front end design.
Okay, thank you very much, Mary. Thank you so much for the explanation. Thank you so much. Thank you very much. So, Mary, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you loud and clear.
Okay, thank you very much. So I think that's like the. Let me check the YouTube part and see if at all we have any questions from there too. So, oh, we don't have any questions from that side. Okay, so Mary, thank you very much. Like I'm very grateful, really, really. It's really, really good to have you on, on this session with the students. Thank you very much for, sharing your wealth of experience and also giving us like, a good amount of your time today. We've spent like almost 1 hour, 20 minutes on this particular session. Thank you so much. I'm really, really grateful. Thank you.
You're
So
welcome. Thank
thank
you
you.
everyone for having me.
All right, you're welcome too. So, all right, guys. So this is going to be like this is where we, come to a close for today's session. And then, just like I said earlier, I really believe that you've learned a whole lot. And I know that this is going to be like this is like a place where some people's career in UI UX design might just start, right? So, someone else is asking another question. So okay, so Mary, I'm going to like bring it up. So okay, so the person is saying, so does building our design using no code tools? Okay, this is gonna be like
Sorry, I
this
don't
is
know
good.
if David, you can send me the questions later. I have to hop on another meeting.
No problem, no problem. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I will try to answer this one to myself. Thank you so much.
Okay, all right.
Okay.
So
All
I
right.
can dash out right now, right?
Sure, sure. No problem. Yes, yes. Thank you
Okay,
very
thanks
much.
guys. Thanks for having me. Bye everyone.
All right, bye. Okay, guys. So this particular last question, I'm going to try to answer it. So the question is: so does building our designs using no code tools make us UX engineers? Okay, so this is a very, very delicate question, right? So okay, so now the guys that go by the identity engineers, all right, are the guys that write codes, like they get to write the JavaScript, the Python, the Node.js. Yeah, so they're like the guys that are addressed as engineers. All right. So, but for me, I think engineering here, from like the root meaning of engineering. Okay, so I don't know the root meaning of engineering. So, but um, engineering here, I would like to just say that it's going to be more about being able to know how to use a particular tool to create a solution for something, right? So if you know how to use a dollar, right, if you know how to use a dollar to create a solution for that addresses some certain problem, you can be said to be an engineer in that particular scenario, all right? So so yes, you can actually get to see yourself as UX engineers if at all you are trying to see how you can apply user experience knowledge in your no code applications, right? That means you're paying so much attention to what the kind of experiences that you want your user to have while navigating through your application. If you're paying so much attention to experience and you're using no code tools to build the mobile apps, yes, you can address yourself as a UX engineer. Yes, you can. Why not? So So I think that should be able to answer that question. Okay. So that brings us to the end of the training for today. So as usual, we're going to have our labs by 7 p.m. Nigerian time. Yeah, that's GMT plus one. So in the labs, we will not be talking about UI UX designs. We will just be talking about no code, Adalu, right? We will try to see how we can leverage on what we have learned so far to do something reasonable, or just answer questions that students might have. Yeah, so this is like the end of the session. Yeah, it is the end of the session. So please, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, just hit the subscribe button and then like the video, drop a comment if you have any question, and we will be sure to get back to you with answers. Thank you very much, and do have a great day. Bye.